Like Mike said, it was so unnecessary. It wasn't even that type of atmosphere. Y'all talking about a basketball game. You know what I mean? A 2-on-2. Playing a 2-on-2, and now you turn a misdemeanor into a felony.
50 Cent is on a rampage right now after J. Prince reportedly dropped some startling paperwork accusing 50 of being a snitch. Things are escalating at lightning speed. And here's the kicker. Some say J. Prince may have met his match in someone just as relentless as he is. The whispers about 50 Cent have been growing louder lately, especially after he publicly called out Big Meech for allegedly snitching. It sparked a storm of side-eye, with people wondering, is 50 the right guy to be throwing around those accusations when there have already been quiet rumors swirling about him? J. Prince certainly didn't stay quiet either. He allegedly went so far as to fabricate documents to make it seem like 50 Cent was snitching too. But 50 wasn't about to take that lying down. He fired back, taking to the internet to slam J. Prince as a liar, a bully, and a so-called gangster who preys on young artists for their money. 50 is not holding back this time. Now the big question is, could there be some truth to the snitching allegations against 50 Cent? Or is J. Prince just grasping at straws, hoping to shift the heat and bring 50 down? Either way, the situation is unraveling fast, and if that wasn't enough drama, 50 Cent is still going after Big Meech. He's doubling down on those accusations and shows no sign of letting up. This feud is ripping the internet apart. Some people are slamming 50 Cent as a hypocrite, while others are branding Big Meech a certified rat. Then, out of nowhere, rapper Top 5 jumped in and stirred the pot even more. He went online claiming Big Meech slid into his DMs, and he wasn't having it. Top 5 declared, "Yo 50 Cent, come get this fake 60-year-old kingpin out my DMs before I crash out." And for good measure, he added the hashtag #BigScreech. Naturally, 50 Cent didn't miss the opportunity to turn this into entertainment. He reposted Top 5's rant, cracking a joke in the caption, "He probably want to borrow some money from you, gangsta." It was a wild moment, and the drama only intensified. In the industry, most folks are steering clear of this mess. Nobody wants to land on 50's hit list, but at the same time, no one wants to look like they're just agreeing with everything he says. It's a tough spot. Still, some critics are speaking up. They're calling 50 out, saying he's the last person who should be talking about snitching. Why? They're pointing fingers, saying he's the biggest rat of all time. That's the chatter on the streets. And of course, J. Prince had to enter the ring. When he did, he came out swinging. He tore into 50 with no hesitation, calling him every name in the book. J. Prince made it loud and clear he's standing firmly with Big Meech. No surprises there, but then the situation took an even wilder turn. J. Prince didn't just settle for trading insults. He allegedly stepped it up a notch, spreading phony paperwork to pin snitching allegations on 50 Cent. Some of the tea-spilling blogs are buzzing about it, claiming J. Prince has been throwing shade on his Instagram stories, accusing 50 of name-dropping Big Meech just for clout. There's even a rumor that J. Prince posted something wild, claiming he founded BMF, before quickly deleting it. Yep, you read that right, but that's not even the craziest part. Insiders are murmuring that J. Prince might have taken this feud beyond the internet and into the streets. Allegedly, he's been making some shady moves, even sending people after 50 Cent to keep him quiet. Those are serious accusations, but in true 50 Cent fashion, he isn't backing down one bit. If there's one thing about 50, it's that he won't let anyone, especially J. Prince, get away with a move like that. He's standing his ground, and if J. Prince thought 50 was going to back off quietly, he clearly picked the wrong guy. 50 fired back without hesitation, daring J. Prince to come see him in person if he was really about that life. He even posted a clip from training day to drive the message home. "You want smoke? I'm ready." Point made. 50 isn't afraid of anybody. Meanwhile, more and more voices are chiming in, fed up with J. Prince and his family's antics. A growing number of younger rappers are openly dissing him, refusing to go along with his so-called power plays. If you know anything about J. Prince's reputation, you know he's often tied to controversy. He's known for playing puppet master, presenting himself as a mentor or protector. But people are talking. They're saying he's just out here setting others up and playing dirty, and they're no longer staying silent about it. Behind the scenes, the latest buzz is that J. Prince and his son, Jazz Prince, have been running rigged dice games. That's right, straight-up setups. Players aren't just losing thousands of dollars. Sometimes they're even losing their lives. That's how intense the street chatter has gotten. For those who don't know, Jay Prince is the CEO and co-founder of Rap-A-Lot Records, one of Houston's most iconic labels. Jay Prince sees himself as a kingpin, often calling himself the king of H-Town. And it's not just him. His sons, Jay Prince Jr., Jazz Prince, and Baby J, all carry themselves like royalty. They're deeply involved in music, boxing, or both, and act like they control Houston's entertainment scene. But there's a fine line between earning respect and ruling through fear, and Jay Prince seems to be leaning heavily on the latter. The facade is starting to crack. There's even this unwritten check-in rule when celebrities and rappers touch down in Houston. They're expected to contact Jay Prince's crew. The deal? Jay Prince offers protection, and in return they hand over cash. It sounds less like hospitality and more like a street tax, and plenty of artists are done with it. The game is shifting. The younger generation isn't about to kneel to someone trying to play the untouchable boss. Let's be clear, Jay Prince isn't offering protection out of love for his city. It's a business, a very profitable one. By demanding these so-called protection payments, he's pulling in hundreds of thousands of dollars. But here's the kicker. The very people these rappers are paying to be protected from might not be who they think they are. They're his own crew. That's the shocking claim. Jay Prince is allegedly sending his own people after those who don't check in, only to turn around and offer protection from the very threat he's creating. It's like a sinister hustle. Manufacture the danger, then sell the solution. And if someone refuses, he allegedly makes sure they live to regret it. That's not business. That's street-level extortion disguised as respect for the culture. Things get even grimmer when you look at the infamous Houston dice games. Jay Prince and his son, Jazz Prince, are at the center of these whispered allegations. The word on the street is that the games are totally rigged. Buy-ins are sky high, and if you win big, you might not live long enough to enjoy it. The tragic loss of Takeoff turned those whispers into outright accusations. Fingers started pointing at Quavo for even bringing Takeoff into that crowd. But here's the cold reality. Takeoff wasn't the first to lose his life after rolling the dice in that circle. Duke the jeweler from Chicago was another victim. A couple of months before Takeoff's passing, Duke won big, $100,000 in one of those games. But according to insiders, he was never meant to win that much. Before Duke could even make it to his car, he was ambushed, robbed, and killed. His cash and jewelry vanished, leaving more questions than answers about just how dangerous these dice games really are. Witnesses say two men leapt from a GMC truck, ran up to Duke, and took everything. And here's the kicker. Nobody was ever arrested, not a single suspect in custody. For someone who constantly boasts about running his city and playing the boss role, Jay Prince didn't seem to care about seeking justice for Duke. No statements, no show of support, nothing but silence. It's got people wondering just how deep this really goes. Who's truly calling the shots when those who claim to protect you might be the ones pulling the strings? The rumor is that Duke the jeweler never checked in with Jay Prince upon arriving in Houston, and supposedly that didn't sit well with the self-proclaimed king of H-Town. And once you hear that, the puzzle pieces start falling into place, right? Then, a few months later, the tragic Takeoff situation explodes. People were quick to point fingers at Quavo, saying he should have known better than to mix with that crowd, but what made Takeoff's death even more devastating was how senseless it all was. That night began with a petty dice table argument, just trivial drama. But it quickly spiraled out of control. Voices rose, tempers flared, and before anyone could step in, a gun was fired. The most heart-wrenching part? Takeoff wasn't even part of the argument. He was just hanging out, minding his business, until a stray bullet struck him. Gone in an instant. Wrong place, wrong time. The man accused of firing the shot, Patrick Xavier Clark, was arrested and charged. But here's where it gets shady. Despite the serious charge, Clark somehow posted a $1 million bond the day after his arrest. Just like that, he was out, chilling under house arrest. But wait, it gets wilder. By November 2023, Clark wasn't just out on house arrest. He didn't even need an ankle monitor anymore. All he had to do was stick to a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew. That's it. Sure, he's banned from contacting witnesses, Takeoff's family, or any other victims. But the real eyebrow raiser? He's also forbidden from contacting Jay Prince Jr. Why? What's the connection between Clark and the Prince family? People are asking the tough questions now. With all these rumors and loose threads, it's hard not to wonder what really went down. The streets aren't buying the coincidence excuse anymore. You can't help but think, what was Jay Prince's role, if any, in the Takeoff tragedy? Because this entire case has been clouded with suspicion. One minute the alleged shooter's behind bars, the next minute he's on curfew like he skipped class, not like he's facing a murder charge. As the case continues to unravel, people are starting to connect the dots. Some are wondering if Jay Prince's influence in Houston is stronger than anyone realized. How else could someone facing such a serious charge get off house arrest with just a curfew? The whispers are getting louder. Did Jay Prince pull strings behind the scenes to protect certain individuals? More importantly, what about Takeoff's family? They've been left in the dark. No real answers, just more questions piling up. Every move in the case seems to leave more people confused. Why is Patrick Xavier Clark, the accused shooter, so conveniently untangled from the system? And why is there a specific no-contact order involving Jay Prince Jr.? These details have people questioning whether there's a deeper layer of involvement that's not being disclosed. And it's not just the streets talking. The internet has been ablaze with speculation. Fans, bloggers, and even some industry insiders have started piecing together rumors, questioning the narrative that's being fed to them. Why does it feel like certain figures are off limits, untouchable even, while others take the full brunt of the blame? What's really happening in the shadows of Houston's rap scene? The Takeoff case is no longer just a tragic headline, it's become a web of suspicion. With each new development, the story grows murkier. People are asking the hard questions. How deep does Jay Prince's network run? What does his crew truly control in the city? And most importantly, who's really calling the shots? One thing is for sure, this story is far from over. None of it makes sense. From being jailed to house arrest to now moving freely while still facing serious charges for a man's death, that's far from normal. The whole situation reeks of something shady, especially with no trial date in sight. This case was supposed to go to court back in 2023, but it's been repeatedly delayed without any clear explanation. And guess who's been acting like he's got nothing to do with it, Jay Prince? But people aren't buying the innocent act anymore. They've seen these moves before and no one's fooled. It's not the first time he's been called out for allegedly pulling strings behind the scenes. Just look at the mess with NBA YoungBoy back in 2020. It's still one of the most talked about incidents in rap. At the time, YoungBoy was staying in Houston, and word is he didn't check in. That alone supposedly made Jay Prince angry. Suddenly, YoungBoy's spot gets hit. Burglars broke in, snatched his chains, and even took the keys to several of his luxury cars, including a white Bentley, a white Rolls-Royce, and a white 2020 McLaren GT. But here's where it gets even crazier. The thieves actually reached out to YoungBoy after the burglary, demanding $30,000 if he wanted his belongings back. A full-blown ransom demand. But YoungBoy wasn't having it. He fired back with a video mocking the entire situation, calling out the burglars as kids who didn't know what they were doing. And just like that, Jay Prince stepped into the picture. He went public, claiming he somehow got in touch with the burglars and had gotten YB's stolen property back from them. But instead of quietly returning it, he told YoungBoy to come down to Houston if he wanted his stuff. It came off like he was holding the items hostage. That move didn't sit right with anyone. Fans immediately started connecting the dots, and the real question emerged. Was this all just a coincidence, or was it a calculated message? But YoungBoy wasn't about to fall for the trap. He saw through Jay Prince's extortion play and called him out without hesitation. Instead of taking the bait and showing up in Houston, YB turned the tables. He mocked Jay Prince for airing the situation on the internet instead of handling it like a real boss would, privately. YB wasn't naive. He knew if he pulled up, it would have cost him way more than the original $30,000 ransom, and YoungBoy wasn't about to let himself be played like that. Not a chance. Jay Prince's move didn't just rub YoungBoy the wrong way, it sparked a wave of backlash. People on social media started questioning the entire situation, with many accusing Jay Prince of trying to flex his power rather than genuinely help out. Fans and insiders alike began to speculate that the whole ordeal was a calculated play to keep YB in line or send a subtle message. Meanwhile, YoungBoy's response only strengthened his reputation as someone who won't back down. By publicly calling out Jay Prince's tactics and refusing to play along, he not only dodged what could have been a costly trip, but also highlighted the growing divide between the older power players and the new wave of independent artists. The fallout from this situation wasn't just a headline for a week. It became a defining moment in the ongoing debate about checking in and how much influence certain figures still hold over the industry. Younger artists began openly questioning these unspoken rules, leading to a broader conversation about respect, independence, and the old guard's grip on the scene. As the dust settled, one thing was clear. Jay Prince's reputation as an untouchable figure had taken a hit. People were no longer blindly following his lead, and the narrative of him as a protector and mentor was starting to unravel. In a world where social media can shift public perception in an instant, this incident left a lasting mark on how the industry views its self-proclaimed gatekeepers. As the public scrutiny grew, some began to wonder if Jay Prince would make a move to restore his image. Would he issue a public statement to explain the situation, or attempt to smooth things over with Youngboy? But days turned into weeks, and there was little more than silence on Jay Prince's end. Meanwhile, Youngboy stayed busy dropping new music and engaging with his fans, seemingly unaffected by the drama. In the background, however, industry insiders whispered that the situation had triggered broader discussions behind closed doors. Some prominent names in hip-hop were reportedly reevaluating their relationships with Jay Prince and his circle. The message seemed clear. The days of unquestioned authority and control were fading, and the new generation of artists wasn't afraid to push back. At the same time, fans took to forums and social media, debating what this meant for the future of checking in. Was it an outdated tradition that needed to be abandoned, or a necessary practice to maintain safety in unfamiliar territories? Opinions were divided, but one thing was certain. This confrontation had sparked a cultural shift. The old rules no longer seemed set in stone, and the hip-hop community found itself at a crossroads. As Jay Prince continued to maintain a low profile, the tension lingered. Some wondered if this was just the calm before the storm, or if Jay Prince had decided to quietly retreat, allowing the industry to move on. Youngboy, for his part, kept doing what he does best, making music and staying true to himself, while fans watched and waited to see if the saga would eventually fade into history or ignite a new chapter. And it's not just YB who's been calling out Jay Prince's shady moves. Plenty of others in the industry have spoken up. Cameron and Mano didn't hold back, outright saying that this check-in culture needs to be left behind. They called Jay Prince an old-school bully who needs to grow up and stop pretending he's still running the streets. Even Whack 100 jumped into the fray, taking direct shots at Jay Prince and his sons. He didn't mince words, questioning what makes Jay Prince Jr. think it's acceptable to run rigged dice games and scheme rappers every time they come through Houston. Whack made it crystal clear he sees the whole operation as a sham. As for 50 Cent's beef with Big Meech, he's not paying attention to anything Jay Prince has to say. In 50's eyes, Jay Prince has no credibility to lecture anyone. First, 50 firmly denies being a snitch. Second, he believes Jay Prince should focus on his own issues before trying to point fingers. The internet's not holding back either. One person wrote, "Jay Prince out here acting tough like he's not a grandpa, while his sons are running games with loaded dice." Another added, "Nobody's scared of Jay Prince just because he acts hard. 50's not sweating those weak threats." And someone else went further, saying, "Jay Prince has been going at 50, but 50 doesn't even care. He's ignoring him because he doesn't respect him." So now the big question is, should 50 be keeping an eye out, or is Jay Prince just blowing smoke, desperately clinging to power that's slipping away?